Hello and welcome to Cultic Cube, where we cube religiously. Today we'll tackle the Monarch mechanic. It's a love it or hate it mechanic for 1v1 cube, so we'll explore how you might come down on the issue, and then we'll do a quick survey of those cards that are most viable for cubes of different power levels or goals. To cut to the punchline, Palace Jailer is the best Monarch enabler in a high-power environment, where he can be, perhaps surprisingly, pack one pick one material for the cube drafter. Let's quickly define the mechanic and discuss why people tend to have strong feelings about it before circling back to rate individual enablers. Monarch is a mechanic that has thus far appeared in only one set, Conspiracy Take the Crown. This supplemental set was designed for multiplayer drafting. The Monarch is a so-called player designation, not a card or a permanent, though there exists a token that may be used to represent it. Thus it is similar to the City's Blessing, except that only one player may have the Monarch at any given time, and the title may be lost and regained. The Monarch gives its bearer the ability to draw an extra card on their end step. One can gain this valuable designation by playing a card that grants the title, or by dealing combat damage to the player who currently holds the title. Reasons to like the mechanic for traditional 1v1 cube play include that the Monarch creates an interesting subgame whereby players are rewarded for contesting the crown. This subgame is inherently more interactive than something like Storm, which can feel like solitaire, and it does not eat up game clock like Scheherazade. Monarch incentivizes attacking, which tends to result in dynamic and interactive games. This has the additional effect of breaking up board stalls, which plague mid-range mirror matches in particular. Games typically accelerate, given that people are attacking more and that one or both players are being fed additional cards. A final advantage is that Monarch gives non-blue decks access to card draw. This characteristic is particularly valuable to aggressive strategies, which typically trade card advantage for tempo. Thanks to Monarch, such decks can potentially have their cake and eat it too. On the other hand, one might well dislike Monarch for spreading around so liberally the ability to draw cards. I would like to suggest that increasingly, while blue is still the uncontested king of card draw, white is the color that remains most hamstringed when it comes to finding cards. Black has long been pretty good at drawing cards. Green and red are catching up, and colorless has an actual one-sided howling mine now. What means white has for generating extra cards tend to be unexciting, with the exception of land tax. All this is to say that one could easily design one's cube in a way that gives most of the colors access to additional cards. Thus, if one eschews Monarch in order to protect blue's slice of the color pie, then one should probably also avoid Harmonize and Friends. Other potential issues include the scarcity of good Monarch enablers, such that some curators are hesitant to introduce complexity into their environments for so few cards. Also, some people fundamentally object to the inclusion of cards from supplemental product. Or one might be averse to deploying a mechanic designed for multiplayer games in a 1v1 environment. On this last point, though, it is worth noting that Mark Rosewater reports that the mechanic was slated for use in Ixalan, but was scrapped when the Conspiracy team needed a new mechanic at the 11th hour. An objection that is more oriented to the gameplay experience is the fact that the Monarch effect can snowball. When one is ahead, it can put one so much further ahead as to make the game feel as if it has entirely slipped from the opponent's grasp. Conversely, when one is behind, the mechanic can do almost nothing, or even backfire badly. Any of these outcomes can make for feel-bad moments. But as I suggested earlier, the mechanic can and often does create interesting tension in games in which players are more or less at parity. In this brief analysis, I am drawing on quadrant theory as articulated by the venerable Limited Resources podcast. Moving on to a survey of the Monarch-granting creatures, Palace Jailer is hands down the first among these. Notice that both Jailer and the next card we'll discuss double as removal spells, which is to say that they help mitigate the problem of the mechanic's weakness when one is disadvantaged by helping to stabilize the board. Palace Jailer is the best version of a Fiend Hunter that we have seen to date, even though he is more expensive than his antecedents. Importantly, he does not return his target when he leaves the battlefield, so if you are able to keep pressure on your opponent, they won't get their creature back, and you'll be drawing 2 cards a turn. Flicker shenanigans work wonders with him. He is a respectable play on an empty board after an opponent wraths, as while you lose out on the exile value, you start drawing extra cards to help you rebuild quickly. It is particularly valuable that Jailer is white, as white struggles most to find card advantage. He is best in an aggressive deck, but that certainly does not have to be exactly white weenie. He is first pick material in my cube, which is a high-power legacy environment. Custodylich is the next best Monarch card, and there is a substantial gap between these top two. Lich is similar to Gatekeeper of Malakir, so it is weaker than Jailer for its inability to target. However, this card has some play to it, in that while the opponent is incentivized to try to steal the Monarch from you, they may also be punished for such a move if you are able to crack back and get another Edict. Lich is a miserable attacker, given that almost everything kills him, but he's not the absolute worst on defense, as his 4 power at least allows him to trade with quite a bit. I currently cube this gentleman, although I would not say that his place in the cube is secure. Trailing far behind Custodylich in cube viability is Regal Behemoth. He is just not what I want from a 6-drop. His Mana Flare ability is rarely relevant enough by the time you have played Behemoth. He replaces himself, which is nice, but he is understated, he does not interact with the opponent's board, and he does not establish a commanding presence on your own side of the board. This means that in practice, he is woefully ill-equipped to defend the crown. I have seen many games in which it would be a mistake to resolve him, as he would benefit the opponent. I would caution you against running this card. Note that while the card says that it is a creature of the type Lizard, Wizards eroded the card in January 2018. It is now a dinosaur, which could be relevant if you cube cards such as Regisaur Alpha. If you run at very low power, or in Pauper or Peasant environments, then some of the other Monarch cards are worth a look. The best of these are Knights of the Black Rose, Thorn of the Black Rose, Palace Sentinels, and Entourage of Trest. I have seen some people run Queen Marquesa and EDH cubes. I don't think that any of these are impressive enough for a cube that aims for standard power level or higher, and Marquesa is just not worth her color requirements in a typical cube. If you are looking to add just a few of these to a low-power environment, I would look first to the cheapest among them, as you want to start drawing cards as soon as possible. In conclusion, I would give the Monarch mechanic a go and see how it feels to you. I appreciate that it encourages novel lines of play by making a fundamental intervention in the card economy of the game. Palace Jailer is a shoo-in for most high-power cubes. I would additionally consider running Custodylich, but I would steer clear of the rest of the Monarch cards, unless you curate an environment in which they make sense. I am sad that so few of these cards make it into my cube. I hope that Wizards will revisit the mechanic and explore new space with it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you would like to see more content such as this. Until next time, keep cubing.